Hey guys, Jennuine Love checking in with an intuitively inspired share. So, hey, those that are joining live, welcome. I don't know if you caught the last card reading video, or maybe it was the one before that. And I was talking about how I wanted to compile like stories, my own, and then also maybe some of you want to share stories, because I think it's important for us to share and, not just like vulnerable shares, but also share our accomplishments and things that, we have been able to manifest using these tools and techniques of the law of attraction. Hey, Jeffrey. So I want to share one of my favorite stories about how the universe, can surprise and delight us, because that's the other thing. A lot of times when we want to manifest things in our world, in our life, we want to experience things, we go about trying to figure out how we can do that, and what the best path is and the best course of action. And sometimes, maybe even often, you'll be able to come up with a plan, and maybe it works beautifully. And I can guarantee you that every single time you allow all that is to orchestrate circumstances and events on your behalf, when you let go of trying to figure it out, when you let go of the how, right? The universe will surprise and delight you. So, with that said, there was this one period in time where I needed to manifest, or I wanted to manifest my own apartment in sunny South Florida. And I knew what the facts were, right? I knew what the evidence was in regard to my ability all by myself to go and, get an apartment, right? I didn't have, quote unquote, all of my ducks in a row. But what I did have was alignment. And what I did have was a crazy ass belief that all of creation, all of the universe would back me up in being able to create what it was that I wanted. And I was able to manifest an apartment, but I want to tell you how, because it's so amazingly beautiful. And so anyway, back up, I wanted to manifest an apartment, right? So what I began doing was I started sharing with people that would ask, hey, where you at? What are you up to? I was like, oh, I'm going to get my own apartment. And I even gave a date. I said by January the 31st, I'm going to be moved into my new space, my new spot, right? And I just kept saying that. And then what I did was I began to purchase things for my new space, whether it was, a laundry basket or a piece of artwork to go on, the wall, or a candle holder. I started purchasing things for my new space. Now, keep in mind, I still have no idea how I'm going to get into this new space, right? But there's no part of me that believes that I'm not. And that's a key, because you cannot know how something is going to happen, but still believe it's going to happen. And that belief is enough to make it happen. So here I am, I'm just like crazy believing I'm getting my own space. I'm buying stuff. I don't have any of the money saved up to go and put down on a place. My credit was not in a space to go and get my own place. You know what I mean? And there was no way that I could see that I could do it. And so what I noticed was anytime I would get caught up in the figuring it out how, that would not feel good. So I just kept my energy focused on, I have no idea how. And it felt like a relief to admit that to myself. I have no idea how. But I know that I don't have to know how, because I know that the universe can absolutely surprise and delight me. So here I am, I'm telling a story. By January 31st, I'm going to be in my own space. I'm buying little bits and pieces to go in my new space, right? And I want to, I go into work one day and my boss and I have this conversation, right? But here's the kicker about the boss and the conversation, because this boss that I had only been working for him for 2 weeks. I had only been working with this boss for 2 weeks, okay? I had never mentioned to him that I'm trying to get my own space and that I don't know how it's going to happen. We didn't even have any conversations about that. Yet one day, I show up for work and he invites me to sit down because he wants to have a conversation. And he says to me, so I figure you're probably, wanting to get your own place out here, and start getting, settled, right? And I was like, yeah, that's definitely a goal of mine. That's definitely something that I want to do. And so then he says, well, I want you to know that I'm absolutely open to co-signing for you if that's something that you need. And I mean, I don't even know how, I was sitting down, but I don't know how I didn't fall out of my chair. I'm sure that my mouth probably dropped open. I just was like, what am I hearing? This man that I have worked for 2 weeks, right, is offering to co-sign for me to get my own space. And it was just, it was so mind-blowing. It was so mind-blowing that type of, I never would have guessed that. No matter how much I would have used my intellectual, thought process and ways that I would have thought I'll be able to accomplish this, nowhere in there would it have been, hey, this, boss that you worked for 2 weeks is going to just sit you down at the table and say, hey, I'm willing to co-sign for you if that's what you need. And that really was such a big, huge aha, do you believe us now, Jen moment, because I feel like all of heaven and earth, all of the creation that is, orchestrated that for me. And there's no way I could have figured that out. There's no way. Even when I tell the story, I'm still like, yeah, this really happened. This really, really happened. And there's all kind of different aspects in this one particular story, but I want to share the practicality of what happens, because I think a lot of times, we make this law of attraction and manifesting things that we want so, airy-fairy and out here somewhere, right? But it is very practical. There are very practical steps, and that's why I love the teachings of Abraham, because it's practical stuff. It's stuff that you can do. It might go against what you've been taught. I guarantee you it's going to go against what you've been taught, but it's practical applications. And so what I did with this particular story and this particular manifestation was I only told the story of how I wanted it to go. That's it. That's all I did. When I talked about it, I only told the story of how I wanted it to go. And if I wasn't in a strong footing in that current moment, then I didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about it to anybody, and I just tried my best to keep my mind off of that, subject and be in less resistance. And when I did talk about it, when I was feeling, in that space of knowing, then I would allow myself to be, so I'm getting my own place. And I told this story how I wanted it to go. Okay, not what I had evidence to believe, because the evidence would suggest you're not going to get your own place, right? The evidence would have suggested that. But my inner being was letting me know otherwise, right? So my storytelling, anything that I spoke out, was where I wanted to go. Okay. Then I took the actions, the going to Home Goods and searching for my little, crystal candle holders that I'm going to put in my new place, and my, signs that I want to hang up, my little throw pillows, like whatever it was that I picked up. Every single time that I went and purchased a little something to go in my new space, I'm keeping my momentum in that direction of what I want. I'm keeping the direction in what I want. Like, I'm focused there. I know I'm seeing this candle holder is gonna, it's gonna go in my new space. I love this. This is beautiful. I'm gonna take it home. It's gonna go in my new space. Okay, so the other thing was, I didn't allow myself to spend any time figuring out how. I didn't sit around calling relatives that I knew were going to say, we're not co-signing for you anyway. I didn't sit around feeling bad about that. I didn't sit around feeling bad about the fact that I needed a co-signer. I didn't sit around feeling bad about, or panicked about, oh my God, so what if I do find a space and they're going to let me in, but I don't have the money? Like, I didn't sit around and use any of my energy to focus on that. I used all of my energy to the best of my ability, right, to focus in the direction of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to manifest, right? So when I did, sometimes, because we're all learning, like, it's never 24/7, you're just yippity-yoo-dah, like, you're gonna have contrasting moments. So when I would slip into those moments where I'm like, it's getting closer to January 31st. Oh my goodness, what is going to pop off here? I would notice that I'm feeling that, and then I would shift my thoughts. And I was like, I realized that the reason I feel like this is because I have no idea how this is going to happen. And the reason that I feel so anxious and uncomfortable is because it's never my responsibility to figure out how it's going to happen. It's my responsibility to line up my energy and to stay in alignment so that the circumstances, people, places, and events can all unfold beautifully. And boy, did they. I mean, and would you believe, I know that you do, I literally signed the lease and moved in to my new apartment on January the 31st. I'm just like blown away at how easy and how effortlessly, and I didn't have to muster up the courage to go and ask somebody to co-sign for me. I didn't have to use any of my energy figuring things out. I only had to use my energy to relax and allow, to make myself, like, let myself be in alignment, like make alignment my top priority. And that when I look back at all of the different things, like, this is just one story, it's one of my favorites, but when I look back at all of the different things that I've been able to manifest and the things that I'm still manifesting, the key component and the key thread through all of that is when we're in a space of alignment, with our inner being. And there's not a whole lot of pressure to, like, be in that space all the time, because we're human, we're not going to be. But if you can get around like the 55% mark, like 55%, you're more in alignment, than not, you're off to, a great life. And there's so many things that we all want to manifest, and it might be an apartment, and it might be a house or a relationship, whatever. These are the kind of umbrella things, but whatever it is specifically to you that you want to manifest, these principles work the same, right? So allow yourself to be in a space where you're only talking about what you want. And if you don't have anybody that you can talk to about what you want, then don't talk to anybody. Just talk to yourself and your guides and your angels, right? And let your story be told in the direction that you want to go and the thing that you do want to manifest, right? And then from there, any action steps that you're inspired to take that lead you closer to that, like, you'll know if an inspired action is an inspiration out of fear and panic and trying to make things happen, or if you're being inspired out of pure, alignment. You'll know the difference. You'll feel the difference. And so in those moments when you are inspired to take action, even when it doesn't make sense to the logical mind, especially when it doesn't make sense to the logical mind, go ahead and give yourself permission to follow through with that action, okay? And then don't allow yourself to be in this space of figuring it out. When you find that you have slipped into that, because it's common, when you find that you've slipped into that space where you're trying to figure things out, let yourself relax, like come back to your breath, take deep breaths, and remind yourself, like, it's not my job, it's not my responsibility to know how this is going to work. It's only my job and my responsibility to know that it is working and to take the inspired actions as I'm guided. And as you do that, the things that you want to manifest will come, whether it's a house, apartment, relationship, whatever it is, it will come. Okay, I just wanted to share that. Sending you all so much love. And I will go back and answer your questions in the comments. Namaste.